Yes, yes. How
Great.
are you doing? Okay, perfect. So, welcome to Little Shorts with Mandy, Barry. Barry, let's start at the beginning. Let's go back to 1972. Can you tell me about the release of your breakthrough single? What is it? New York's Closed Tonight?
Well, I have always been a songwriter since I was 15. At that point in 1972, I was 21. And I already had two musical experiences, one with Apple Records back in 1968, 1969, and then with Strawberry North and 10cc in England, in London again, where I had a sort of a successful single. And I came back to go to university to be a lawyer. And I made a demo of a song called New York is Closed Tonight that was played to Bo Diddley. Bo Diddley took a cassette to a guy in New York, a publisher called Fred Allen Jr., and he loved the song and released the song, and it went to the top of the charts in Canada and was the most played song on Canadian radio back in 1972. And that opened the door to American involvement with my music.
Right, and tell us a little bit about how it changed your career or your pathway once you had some success with that first song.
I was still thinking about staying in school and becoming a lawyer because the music business aspect of the business does never sat well with me. But every door opened and I just walked through them and enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed working with super talented people, which I got the chance to do. And songwriting is really what motivated me and what still motivates me. So it's the art of the song. It's not the idea of chasing fame or uh, anything of that aspect. It's about art for art's sake for me. And I was given opportunities and I accepted them.
Right. And that must have been pretty exciting for you at that time. So did you end up following through with your law degree or did you stay with the music or kind of what happened at that time that you experienced some success with that single?
I followed through. I went to America and I recorded an album at RCA Hollywood with the A players, Larry Carlton, Jim Gordon from Derek and the Dominoes, Joe Osborne from Paul Simon's band, Simon and Garfunkel, Larry Carlton from Steely Dan, all the best players, Larry Mahobrat from Sinatra on piano. And there was a tremendous tussle after the album was completed between my management, which was Fred Allen in New York, which was Bacharach and David, and the label. And I chose Bacharach and David as opposed to the label. And 3 months later, I left the music business.
Okay. So why did you leave the music business then, just 3 months after starting, basically?
No, I've been doing it since 68. It was 5 years.
Okay.
Um, Mandy, the truth is, it just didn't sit with me. I'm a good judge of people, and I know that the music business has some lovely souls, and you've probably met many of them, but it attracts people that are not that beautiful inside. And I'm not comfortable being around that. So I really just wanted a simple life.
Right, right. And so pursuing fame, if you want to call it that, in the music industry wasn't really something that jived with yourself, I guess then, right?
No, there were so many incidents where I was uncomfortable with fame. Um, Things like I was asked to do the dating game and I couldn't do it. I just wasn't comfortable in that kind of environment. I was at Rod Stewart's house and I just looked around me at what they were doing to women and the amount of drugs and alcohol, and I didn't do either. And I was a square peg in a round hole, Mandy. It was something that I don't think would have worked well for me to continue. And it's a question that I've asked myself a lot, especially since writing the book. Uh, what would have happened if I would have gone through door number two as opposed to door number one, which put me back in the street? I would have said yes to Fred Allen. He had lots of offers from other labels. I would have made another record. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. No,
Right,
no
right.
regrets at all.
Well, that's great. I was going to ask you if you regretted not following through with that or not, but seems like you're happy with your place in life now. But did you briefly returned to the industry though in the 90s, I think I read.
Well, yeah, with one toe in the water, back in the 90s, late 90s, one could make music without spending six figures like it used to be. One could go in the studio for a bit of money and record your songs. And so I found a home in Nashville because the players in Nashville were more like me. They were more wood and steel and less computered and more real. And I made some really good music in Nashville, and my CDs have sold solidly, which gave me the opportunity to do, four shows a year, which I do. As I say, art for art's sake. I just think the idea of being a musician is you don't have to do a 40,000 seater. You can do 120, 150 and talk to those people honestly for 2 hours. I'm also a storyteller, and I just look forward to my shows. I'm 74 now, and I'm still excited to be doing a show in 2 weeks. So, I
That's
do
great.
completely different sets. I do new songs, the ones that people want to hear as well, and it's 2 hours long. And I talk about my family, and I talk about my life, and I talk about the things that you're talking about with me today.
Right, right. Yeah, it's funny. I was my last guest that I was talking to. We were also talking a little bit about those smaller, more intimate venues, and about the fact that even though they are smaller and maybe they're not as flashy, they're some of the most important or fun or exciting events as an artist to play. Is that how you feel?
Absolutely. When the Stones did their small shows in New York or Le Combo in Montreal, it's because they want to get back to their roots. There is a certain, I've never, I mean, the biggest show I've ever played is 8,000. And it felt absolutely alien to me because I couldn't see the eyes of the people. So
Right, right,
if you're singing songs about your children or about your life or about politics or about love, you want to feel the circular energy from the audience. And I imagine that's a lot easier when you're close to the audience and the audience can see the beads of sweat. And it's not really a distant event where you have to make yourself big. I watched a video yesterday about the Queen the Queen playing Live Aid and how Freddie Mercury really suited that large, 100,000 environment, but very few can pull it off.
right, right. He's on a whole different level of performer, right? He's quite something. Barry, can you tell us a bit about your memoir? You released that earlier this year.
Correct.
What inspired you to do that, to release that, to talk about your life?
I've been doing concerts since the late 90s. I won't say all over the world, but all over Europe and all over Canada. I won't play America. And my concert is twofold. It's singing a song, talking about the song, and then telling the story about my glory days, when I used to hang out with people that people like to hear about. And that's is what people tell me about after. Oh, I really loved your story about Supertramp. Or I really loved how you talked about meeting John Lennon. So everybody and their dog is writing a book that has had anything to do with music. And I love writing, and I just started doing it. My wife is an author, and so I've watched her and the joy she gets out of putting pen to paper. And so I have it right here. I wrote this book, My Journey to Blue Sky. And
Mhm.
it was a catharsis. It was great to research the dates to make sure they're correct. I contacted people that were in the room as much as I could that were still alive, that I could get their phone numbers. I spoke to David Kirschenbaum, who produced Blue Sky, the album. And the other thing, Mandy, is that it was the 50th anniversary of the album. And there was a lot of industry buzz about it. The Record Collection, the most important vinyl magazine in the world, did a three-page story about it and called it a masterpiece. The Canadian
Nice.
Museum of Music said it was an outstanding contribution to Canadian music. And I got lots of press that I didn't seek. And I thought there might be an important reason to write this book for my grandchildren. So
Okay.
when I'm flying away, and they're in their 20s, which they're not yet, I am. have told them my story. And if I didn't enjoy writing it, I wouldn't have done it. But it's a very, very positive book. It's very, very honest, and it's a name dropper. And I got a publisher in 3 hours. So it's selling really well, and
Good,
I get really good
good.
feedback because it's positive. It's not about,
Glad to hear it. That's awesome. And so you've met just about everybody in the entertainment industry. Can you tell us maybe about who have you met that really tops your list in terms of being super impressive, nice? Like, who's your favorite celebrity that you've encountered?
well, I'll premise this by saying everybody that I've met, except for two exceptions, which I won't mention, have been beyond nice and beyond kind and beyond open and helpful. But if I have to pick two, and you've asked me to pick one, the two I would pick would be John Lennon, because it wouldn't have been anything without John Lennon. I mean, it started
Right,
in John Lennon's office in May 1968 when Apple had just opened their doors. And the other one was the afternoon I spent with Sonny and Cher. And Sonny was fine, but Cher was just really human and really quiet for the first hour, and then really unquiet for the last 2 hours. And when I tell the story, I always say I never met Cher. I met Sherilyn Sarkisian, like the real person. And she was a really big star, but she hadn't reached the point where she was an icon. So she was still struggling with the idea. I think she was very unhappy with her husband, and that obviously was told in later days by the court cases and after their divorce. So all of these people, from Supertramp to 10cc to John Lennon, really molded me and helped my character become more of who I am. Cher was unbelievable,
right.
very
Yeah,
kind.
I bet. Those sound like some amazing experiences. You've been in the industry for a long time, so since the 60s, so you've seen all of these changes, that's like almost 50 years, 60 years.
Yeah, 66
And
decades.
right. And so what would you say is the biggest change that you've noticed? Like, I know technology and all that, but aside from that, how has it changed over the years in the biggest way?
Maybe not in the biggest way, but in an important way, is my generation and the ones close to my generation that made music in the 60s and 70s looked back and studied. So I studied Cole Porter. I studied Frank Sinatra. I definitely studied the Beatles to no end. And I was in a vegan restaurant a few years back, and my waiter was a young guy who looked like a musician. And I said, "Are you a musician?" And he said, "Yes." And he was 22 years old. He described himself as a singer songwriter. So I made a conversation, and he had never heard of Cat Stevens, and he'd never heard of Bob Dylan. And it sounds like an exaggeration, but it was an epiphany for me, because I don't think you can do something without spending some time, and I think a great deal of time is better spent studying your predecessors. Because even though my songs are not Berlin-esque or Cole Porter-esque or even McCartney-esque, they're certainly Barry Greenfield songs. They're different. I mean, you have to be unique. But you mentioned technology. I think technology has greatly hurt music. I think perfection is not a thing about art. It's about the heart. And I think that we'll take Madonna. Madonna hires William Orbit and people of that ilk. And so it sounds brilliant. Everything is in tune, everything is real, and then everything is lip synced on stage. So it's no longer art, it's fake. And so I think that the reality of the tuning your guitar between songs, if you buy a Neil Young live album from 1972, one thing I really like about Neil is he puts the whole live album out. So you hear in between each song tuning the guitar, which I still do,
Right.
without a
Yeah.
tuner and without a computer. It's just tuning it by ear. So everything is then about the moment and about being in tune with yourself and being in tune with your lyric and being in tune with your life.
Right. So the more technology kind of removes us that much more from the authentic experience of the music, right? And I feel that too, when you're listening to something that's, tremendously overproduced, it's just not as authentic as somebody, like you say, who's bringing you so close to their creation of that product. right,
I looked at the stuff that you do, Mandy, and you do health, fitness, diet, beauty, right? But if you're doing health and fitness by putting good things in your mouth and by exercising and by walking and by feeling positive and by doing nice things compared to Ozempic to lose weight through a needle, um,
right,
there's a different result. You might lose the weight like you do by walking 4 miles a day, and you might find positivity because people say, "Oh my gosh, you look so good. You've lost 40 pounds." But it's a different journey, and everything is about the
right.
journey, not the destination. So you're right. It's not authentic, and it's not really them. It's not really um, the artists of today, which is surrounded by a bunch of people that are good at one little part, which is dance routine or uh, a recording routine or key tune, auto tune, excuse me. It's wrong. It doesn't, it's not art. It's not what Da Vinci did. It's not what Michelangelo did. It's not what Shakespeare did. It's not what McCartney did. It's not what Donovan did. And it's certainly not what Bob Dylan did. He uses a pen and paper like I do and writes the lyric out. So your heart and your finger is on the lyric. It's a whole different way of doing it than talking into a computer.
For sure. Great difference, right? Barry, are you involved in the industry now at all? Or do you have any plans to do any more recording? I know that you're doing some shows, but is there anything else in the works?
One thing, I made an album during COVID called The Beautiful Band, which I think is really a good record. I've done 11 albums. There's only two that I tell people to purchase. One is The Beautiful Band from 2021 on iTunes and all the platforms. But the other one is Blue Sky, which is what this book is. This was my 1973 album. And this is the real heart of the matter for me. As regards to I have other plans, I went to Auschwitz in 2019 with my wife and family, and it greatly affected me. So I've written
Imagine.
a documentary with 5 songs that I try to share with the world as much as I can. And if anybody would like to have a copy of the documentary for free, they can contact me through my website, barrygreenfieldmusic.com.
Okay. Barry, what advice would you give, just to end off here? What advice would you give, say, even your younger self or somebody new starting out in the business? What is the best advice you think you could give them?
I'm working on my second book, and the title of the second book is All You Need Is Courage. Now, of course, that's a play on All You Need Is Love by John. But I think that courage is an incredibly important word because if you live your life with courage and you pay attention to doing courageous things, I believe there's a linkage with that with doing honest things and truthful things and integrity things and honorable things. So I say to the young artists today, and I love watching them because I do, um, be honest, write about yourself. Do what John Lennon did. Write about yourself and write about things that you've learned. Write about your mom. Write about the politics of the world. Like New York is closed tonight. It's a song about pollution, my big song. But when 9/11 happened, it went viral because people thought it was about 9/11 because the lyric sounds like it's about 9/11, but it was written 1.5 decades before 9/11. If you write the truth comes back in waves. So I say to
Right,
young artists, be honest to yourself and don't try and give them what they want. Give them what you feel and give them what you feel in your heart. Be true, be
right, right.
truthful, be truthful.
Yeah. So I like that, circling back to your idea of authenticity and being true to yourself and, showing that through your art. And so I like that.
Thank you.
Barry, thank you so much for joining me for this quick chat today. I will link all of your socials and websites
Thank you.
in the description below.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for chatting with me
Okay.
today.
Well, in closing, I just want to say if anybody wants to talk to me, do it through barrygreenfieldmusic.com. And Mandy, it's been an honor and a pleasure, and I really respect your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Barry.
Bye bye.